talking about immigration as though it's these masses of people that are coming into the UK and causing the problems, but that is not the case.
But when we're talking about just the explosion in population, that brings with it the Ministry of Truth is in full force, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello and welcome back to Informally Informed. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch that. We're continuing our conversation on what exactly is happening in the UK.
You're on about the ECHR, the UN Refugee Convention.
I was, because my argument is around funding. What is the point of... We can't fix anything in the UK without money, okay? Sorry, I'm chewing gum. But we can't actually fix anything in the UK without money. Most of our money is going elsewhere. We're not even looking at where the money is being spent. People are unhappy because the economy is failing. People are unhappy because they're paying more taxes. People have been living through austerity. We can't just focus on immigration. When we look at immigration, we talk about mass immigration in this country.
Which is different from talking about immigration.
Which it is.
And don't forget, in the first episode that we ever did, I said that mass immigration was the root cause of all the shit going on, and you said that you agreed with me.
I agree, but let's focus on what we mean by that, because this is where mass immigration and the problem that we're currently seeing in society don't tally up for me. In 2023, because I've got the stats right here, because I want to get it exactly right. In 2023. Indian nationals were the largest nationality to come to the UK, accounting for 21% of overall immigration. Nigerian and Chinese citizens followed, respectively. Ukrainians were also a common nationality in 2022 due to the humanitarian visa routes in response to the war in the Ukraine, but their share of individuals declined in 2023 and people went back. So when we talk about mass immigration, can we just be careful not to inflate? This is where not to inflate it to mean Muslim.
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah, but people in the UK are doing that, because when they're talking about these riots and where the people are coming from, they're talking about immigration as though it's these masses of people that are coming into the UK and causing the problems. But that is not the case. That is not the case.
But the sheer explosion of numbers causes all the other issues that leads to them.
They're the people that are already here. These are radicalized from people that are already here.
When I say all the other issues, I'm not talking about the terrorism. I'm talking about the roads, the NHS, all these other issues that come with it. When I'm talking about the explosion of multiculturalism is its own issue. But when we're talking about just the explosion in population, that brings with it all of the issues.
The explosion in population is not the same thing. So what are you talking about?
You're right, it's not.
Because this is what I'm talking about. When we're looking at what the mainstream media is portraying.
But that is also a factor. That is also a factor.
I am not saying
culture
it isn't.
is also a factor.
Culture is a massive factor of how we got here. Culture, I'd say, is one of the bigger, most ignored factors of how we got here. The fact is the cultures do not line up. If you are not able to take on, I'm not saying, okay, the right to practice your own religion is fundamental. However, as per the social contract that everybody else signs, you have to integrate. Speaking the language is integration. Religious schools are a thing that have been around in the UK for God knows how long. I went to a C of E school, so I don't see how that people are bringing that up in the argument as a lack of integration. I can see how it would solve some things, but it wouldn't solve others, because there are more mixed schools in the UK, public schools, than there are religious schools. So we need to look at those issues. The way that people are talking about it is it's as though they're going to kidnap the children, put them in camps and re-educate them. I believe someone else, that's the playbook, the authoritarian playbook. How are you going to fix the issues in a realistic way and I guess this is the problem for government, but the only way they're going to get there or get to any solution is by listening to the actual people. Listen to the people that are living in these communities that are being affected by crime, increasing crime, gang culture, all sorts of nonsense that's happening in the UK around rapes and sexual violence happening in these areas that they've housed people coming over seeking refuge. Because no matter how they got here, whether boat or plane, they are here under the European, oh God,
ECHR.
no, the European Convention of Refugees, UN Convention of Refugees, which says that you have the right, you can go and seek refuge in a safe country. That's why they're here. So when we're talking about those people, and they're talking about refugee hotels,
however, the vast majority of people that are in the hotels are not refugees by the definition.
They are, in fact, by definition, asylum seekers. They are refugees, and that's why they're being housed.
Nigerians.
It's the UN Refugee Convention of 1951.
What was going on in Nigeria right now?
I have no idea what's going on in Nigeria right now because I'm super focused on what's happening in the UK right now.
People are given refugee status coming from countries that are not applicable to get refugee status.
But they still have it but they use
So when we're talking about the problems, I'm saying fix the issues, change the law, stop people from coming over that are economic migrants and not refugees.
I agree. I do agree with you there. But then it's the issue of we already knew prior to the election, for the last few years, there's been issues with the government, the way in which the government have been dealing with asylum seekers. There's been a backlog for God knows how long. They've had people holed up in hotels for God knows how long. This was the crime that took place in Southport was just the latest in a long line. It was the spark that lit the flame. But it was a pyre that was already building. We didn't just get here overnight. And the way that people are portraying it is as though we did, or as though the people are so dumb that they didn't know, that they just suddenly woke up one day and decided that what they're going to do is riot and protest about immigration. Look at Belfast.
Yes.
This is uniting Belfast, the Unionists and the Nationalists, against the... I have never seen anything like it. Look at Belfast. Belfast.
But the only people that are saying that this has come out of nowhere are the government and the mainstream media.
Yep.
If you talk to the people, that's not the case. Everybody is fully aware that that is not the case, right? So again, I mentioned the Manchester Arena bombing. If that happened today or tomorrow, we would see a completely different reaction. If the Southport stabbing had never happened, and instead it was the Manchester Arena bombing, we would have still seen the same reaction today than we did when it happened.
But can I just say that you are saying that that's what... The reason that I'm saying is if you live in a city and you are seeing... The reason that I'm saying this is because your perspectives matter. The UK is not as big as America, but it's still big. It's what you see in the mainstream media outside of the area that you live in is your perspective of what's happening in that area. But what you see in your area is your perspective of what's happening in your area. You're getting a bird's eye view of what you see happening, but you're getting the media's view of what they're telling you is happening over there. So the way that, because we live in a small town, nothing's kicked off here, but these people are being influenced by the media and what they think is happening in the UK. These are people that live in cities. When I go to visit my parents, I get the news of London and the South. It doesn't include what's happening up here, obviously, because it's regional. So they're seeing what they see, what the BBC or the Channel 4s or the wherever else Sky News is getting that's where they're seeing of what's happening. But that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. We have always had class issues in this country, and it was never there was always racial issues in the cities and such. There's always, wherever there are differences, there's always going to be differences. You know what I mean? The way that this is spread has become ridiculous.
I think it's spread into the mainstream in the last couple of weeks, but that's not that's not the reality of what's been happening specifically across the north. This has been building for so long.
So long.
The anger about the grooming gangs, the anger about all these issues, the anger about two-tier policing. And instead of doing something to address the issues, instead of turning around and being like, okay, at least, it's like you said, it all comes down to perception. The perception, and there's a very real basis for this, is that certain communities are being treated better than other communities. And we're seeing that happen in real time. And instead of addressing the issues, what the government, what Kier Starmer, #2TakeCare, has been doing is turning around and saying either no, it's not happening, or giving the general population the impression that, yeah, it is happening and we don't give a shit. That's effectively what's happened. We are going to prosecute all of these people. We're going to put a front page of this is what you do. If you stand there and look dodgy at a protest without actually doing anything, if you just happen to be walking past, we're going to arrest you for it. Yeah, we're not going to arrest the people that are running down the streets waving machetes around because we don't want to anger the community. We're not going to talk about the far left and their congregation on Wednesday and the arrests that they had and the throwing the bricks and this and the other. We're going to portray them as, I know it's a cliche, but mostly peaceful, despite the fact that they were breaking stuff as well. I'm not saying the situation's comparable.
Okay, but then make
obviously
this
not,
same argument from Birmingham. The perspective would be completely different. Make this same argument from anywhere else in the UK. Make it from Brighton. The perspective would be completely different. It's one of those things, and how do you even tame it? Because the UK already
But this is the thing,
has...
the people in Brighton, the people in Bristol, that haven't been affected in the same way as the people in these
Bristol
working
had
class
riots.
towns. In these working class towns in the north, they haven't been affected by in the same way.
No, they haven't, because when
And
the vast
Garcia, let
majority
me
of
finish
these
my
people
point.
moved in, they were
Garcia,
moved to the north.
let me finish my point, right?
All right.
When these people are getting this view of, oh, they're all far right, there's no understanding of why these protesters feel the way they do. So it's very easy then just to turn around and label them all as far right and to have done with it, because from their perspective, oh, there's no justification. They think multiculturalism's going along great because they're not seeing the effects of it.
Yeah, I mean, the north of the UK has suffered, as I said before, it suffered a depression. You know, all the industry that was here is gone. And where they can, they've had cheap labour initially from the Poles. Initially, it was people from Eastern Europe actually coming over to the UK and taking the jobs that people don't want to do. And, you know, they were being paid less to do these jobs, and it was causing a problem. Now we've transferred that same dogma to other groups, and it's a difficult one, because it's hard to look at. Okay, if you're looking at it from an NHS perspective, there are a lot of health issues that come with certain groups. Okay, intermarrying causes a lot of issues. Okay, and as such, it causes
Incest. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, but you know, it causes then a lot of pressure onto the NHS. If you look at the groups that are coming in and the situations that they're coming in, a lot of them have very disabled children. I'm not saying that this is... I'm saying that this then adds to it. But then on the other hand, a lot of your doctors that you see are also of Asian, East Asian West Asian descent, okay? So they're also bolstering the NHS. If you look at your nurses, most of them, I'd say, are either from Nigeria or Thailand. Okay?
But only 100,000 healthcare visas were handed out last year.
Yeah.
1.4 million people came into the country. So this argument that we need people to come in
But you
doesn't
also
work
need to
because
look
it's
at
only
families.
less than 10%.
But then you're looking at families. I'm talking about the lack of integration. So if you're then looking at families, so let's say your doctor comes to the UK and they bring their families, and they're living in the community that they know people in, so people of their own that look like them, because they're staying with their family. They then have children who grow up in the system but are also just feeding into this environment. This is how we've gotten here. There has been no reason for integration thus far. We're talking about it now. If we had done what Norway had done in the first place, which is just pluck a family and put them in the middle of nowhere and say, this is your community now, that would have worked. But we didn't do that.
One family per town. So they say, you have to go to this town. There's no other towns there from no other families there from your country, so you have no choice but to integrate, and dispersed it like that.
We didn't do that.
And
we can't put the
we
genie
can't do
back
that
in the
anyway
bottle.
because the numbers were too high.
Of course, but we cannot put the genie back in the bottle. We're not facing a problem that's unique to us. This has risen across Europe.
And can I also make the point as well of saying that the government now, I understand this is a different government. Kier Starmer's been in just over a month. I'm going to be honest, I'm impressed. I thought it would have taken him at least a year to get this totalitarian, but he's done it in about a month. So you know what? Credit where credit's due, Mr. Starmer.
Well, it's proved that's all right in the end, I guess.
They're bringing in temporary measures, and as I'm sure we're all aware at this point, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government measure. We now have increased prison times, up to 7 years for inciting racial hatred. What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
Now I'm afraid to say anything in case I accidentally incite racial hatred.
And now we've got, getting the facts wrong, inaccurately posting on Facebook about some of the facts about an incident that you thought was true at the time because an outlet released information. That could be considered inciting racial hatred if you said, oh, this person was from this area. Because what if other people perceive it a certain way and then they get... You've got to do all these mental gymnastics to get there, yet they're doing it. And the other thing, they're talking about facial... They're turning us into China. They're talking about facial recognition.
Yep. Next, we're going to need social points. We're going to need social points next.
Social credit system. It's coming.
It's coming. Yep. I see that coming. And we're worried...
The government are using this.
We're talking about being worried about China. We're talking about being worried about all these outside forces, Putin... We need to be worried about what's happening in the government. But, this is what I'm trying to say.
But the other question is, how did people not see this coming? How did people not look at the way Kier Starmer treated Jeremy Corbyn and thought that's a cause for concern for if he just does that to every single person that disagrees with him?
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Leo Kearse the other day and he made a point saying, oh, me and my mates were joking about, Kier Starmer's going to start arresting people he disagrees with. We didn't expect him to start doing it within the first month he was in office.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Kier Starmer has outdone even our greatest fears. But with that being said, can we talk quickly about what's happened? What I'm seeing when I'm watching things, which I'll be honest, I don't watch that many things, is a lot of Americans discussing racism in the UK. And much like when people discuss racism in France, they don't get it because they don't understand the social structure. In France, the suburbs are where they put the immigrants, and the rich live in the cities, unlike...
Same in America.
Yeah, same in America. Whilst here, it's a bit different. The rich live in the suburbs and the poor live in the cities. So... here we are with what's happening in the UK and the racialized language used. I guess what's triggered me at this point, it's not just the racial incidents that I've had to endure this week that's actually pissed me off. It's been the racial language that's being used around what's happening in the UK right now. I touched on this briefly before, but when the police started this, and I'll be honest, in this particular case, the police started it. What they did was when the Southport incident took place, they put out a statement after they fumbled the Nicola Bulley situation, just read from a sheet and said that the person that committed the atrocity was 17 years old and from Cardiff. That's all they said. They gave no other descriptors and people went with it. What then came when it came out that the kid was a black kid from Rwanda? Actually, first came the name, then came the immigrant situation, even though he was born in the UK. I guess my question is, at what point, how many generations did it take to not be an immigrant to the UK anymore? And at what point is it no longer, when did it become okay to use this as a slur? And how have we gotten from Britain's an empire, the Commonwealth, to Britain's a tolerant country? Because when I hear about toleration, I hear tolerating means we put up with you.
But what you have to remember with that is that this... Now, yes, this person, as far as I'm concerned, is a British citizen.
Of course.
But if you look at the rest of the world, because we're taking this from a Western perspective, our view that this person is the 17-year-old is British is not shared by the majority of the world. I can go to China, have kids, raise my kids in China, born and raised in China, and the Chinese people will never... But they will look at my child, they will look at the shape of the face, the skin colour of their face, and they will never be seen as Chinese. If I go to Vietnam, it's the same thing. If I go to Iraq or, India, it is the same thing. This idea of you're born in the country, you're raised in the country, therefore you're not a migrant, although, in my opinion, is the correct way to go about things, when you look at it on a global scale, we are in the minority for thinking that.
But we do think that. As a nation...
But there's a lot of people, but what you have to bear in mind as well, a lot of people that are coming in that are born and raised in this country also think like the majority of the world. So if they don't see themselves like that, and we're telling them, you must identify like this, and they're going, nah.
All right, so here's my issue with that then. Because much like, I believe I mentioned this...
Surely they can identify however they want.
Of course they can. But this is not them identifying how they want. This is the media identifying them. This is other people identifying them. So is this a personal choice or is it not? Because I immigrated to this country. I was not born here, but I am a British citizen. And when I have spawn, they will be British citizens. Well, then my parents also moved here, and my grandparents before them, because at the time Britain owned Jamaica. And so it was a British overseas territory, so it wasn't the same. So this is what I mean about this issue of who decides.
Here's the question. So I was having a conversation with somebody that has a strong American accent, and I said, "Oh, you're American?" She went, "No, I moved to America when I was 12. I'm actually, I think, a country in Europe, Spain, no, Italy.
I love me some Italians.
And if I moved to America and became an American citizen, and somebody said, "Oh, you're American," I'd be like, "No." Like Constantine Kissing said, "Well, where are you from?" "Well, I live in London, but originally I'm from Russia." So yes, you are British and you're a British citizen. But if your lineage is Jamaican, if you're born in Jamaica and moved over here just like your parents do, you're Jamaican. You're not English, but that doesn't mean you cannot be British. That doesn't mean you cannot be an American citizen. If you're born, but your children, whose choice is it?
What then? Okay, so then what happens of my children?
Would then become, if your kids are born in this country, English, of course.
All right, so are we talking about nationality of the passport and nationality of the soil? Because these things are, it's a very different thing.
But then again, if you go to Dubai, you can be born in Dubai and you'll never get a Dubai citizenship because they work things differently. It's only the UK that, or modern Western society,
but it is modern Western society, and if we're saying it's a person, it's like the football thing. Bukayo Saka.
So all the people that are saying this person's not Welshman, they're just going along with the general perception of the rest of the world.
I don't believe that to be true. I believe that it has sinister racial undertones, as was the article in the paper that pointed out.
Which article?
It was in the Daily Mail, and it was a picture of the young Rwandan, and it said that he was Rwandan, and...
Was that the one with his backpack on that made him look all sweet and innocent?
Yeah, I didn't think he looked sweet and innocent. I thought he had an alien head, but that's neither here nor there. I was shocked by the rhetoric that came out of that. Never before in my lifetime. Obviously, Stephen Lawrence happened, but Stephen Lawrence's situation happened in the 90s, well before I think it was before I was old enough to have sense. So, I've not seen anything quite like this. And of course, the Mark Duggan situation happened in 2011, but again, I wasn't politically turned on, so I wasn't aware of what was actually happening. This is the first one that I've had cognizance on, and I'm surprised by what I'm seeing and hearing, to be perfectly honest with you. It makes me sad. It makes me sad that this is a country that was built on empire, and people from all over the place we're talking about trying to put multinationalism and all of those things back into a box. But Pandora's box has been open for a while. And I know you don't believe in hope, so I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say that. No.
I live in reality.
I never said it. I never said it. I can't be bothered with you. I'm just saddened by what I'm seeing and hearing, and people being pulled out of their car, attacked on the street senselessly. So people need to decide what the issue is. It's
coming from everywhere.
Problem? Is it a race issue? Yeah, it's coming from everywhere.
Are you talking about that video when the group of Muslims stopped and pulled people out of the car?
It's coming from everywhere. This is not I'm not talking about I'm talking about the shocking level of racism that I'm seeing from all over the place.
In the last five minutes that we've got to talk about this, my question then becomes, what are we gonna, like, obviously we're nobodies. There's nothing we could do about it. Kier Starmer is going to go the way Kier Starmer's going to go, which is going to become more and more totalitarian. So the question then becomes, are we heading towards a civil war?
I really hope not.
Elon Musk tweeted out, civil war is brewing.
I hope we're not headed towards a civil war, but if we are, whose side are you on? Don't answer that.
I think no, I don't think we are. At least not yet. I think it'll die down, and a month later people will be talking about something else. And Kier Starmer, under the radar, will be pushing a lot of these things through that people don't realise, the facial recognition, all this kind of stuff. Until the next incident. And there will be another incident.
Of course there will.
And it will come from from the same community.
We just need to remember that we need to be able to talk openly about this stuff, because the UK has got a bad habit of brushing things on the carpet.
And in a country where less than 5% of the burglaries are actually solved, the police are choosing to spend their time policing what people say online, because the Ministry of Truth is in full force, ladies and gentlemen.
And I'm just hoping that we continue to have this discourse. They're so desperate
to hang on to this narrative. And the thing is, it 100% would have worked 10 years ago, 20 years ago, before Facebook, before Instagram, before Twitter. But they seem to be stuck in the past. They don't seem to realise that due to the invention of social media, people aren't falling for their bullshit anymore. And that's what's led to this, because people can see with their own eyes. They can exchange stories with each other to understand that it's not just them that this is happening to. And shit's going to hit the fan unless he's very careful. He doesn't want to go down as the person that fucking destroyed this country.
We need to get We need to get to a place where we can talk openly and honestly about this stuff without it coming from a place of violence, intolerance, racial bias, or any of those things.
Or we'll arrest you if you do.
Ideologic. We need to talk about it, because we are already living in this reality where everybody is already in the pot.
And that, Garcia, is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, but between us, and all
our viewers. Between us and
all our viewers, we need to continue to have these conversations. Keep talking to your friends. Have these conversations in your living room like we're doing in mine.
And let us know what you guys think as well. If you disagree on anything, we do read all the comments. Let us know exactly what you think, what we're right on, what we're wrong on.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Who you agree with more?
Obviously me, because I'm the only level-headed one and not on the right wing.
Garcia likes to think that she's the most level-headed one, but I think our viewers are going to make the right decision on that.
All right, let's not do that. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next time. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.